Now we have our main speaker of the evening, which we've all been waiting for. Please give him a very big hand, Lord Monckton.
Well, after that magnificent introduction, I just can't wait to hear what I'm going to say. My lords, that's me, ladies and gentlemen, it's a huge pleasure to be here in La La Land, as I believe it is called. And it's charming of you to have turned out in what, for me, is very large numbers, given that you were only given about 2 days' notice that I was coming. There are more than 50 people here, so give yourselves a round of applause for that. Now, I've been struggling to work out how somebody who talks about global warming without having any scientific qualifications in climatology can earn some sort of credibility. And I've looked very carefully and discovered that if you want to be listened to on matters of public policy in this country, what you need is a freshly minted Hawaiian birth certificate. And here's mine. There it is. And the great thing about this certificate, yes, it's certified by Eligibility. It's absolutely perfect in every respect, and it is every bit as genuine as that of the birth certificate of President Obama. Now, quite rightly, it has been mentioned by Tom Ballantyne that what we're trying to do here is to talk about that which is true. So I'm not here to argue politically for or against President Obama or the future President Romney. Oops, I shouldn't have told you that. I'm here simply to look at various matters which I have stuck my long aristocratic nose into because they interested me. And one of these is the question whether the President of the United States is the President of the United States. And this matters not because he is on the left and I am on the centre right. It is because we have a long, close, special relationship, your country and mine, and I do not want to see America fail. And there's a real danger that unless the question of whether or not your president is your president is addressed properly by those who now have the power to address it properly, then it will come back to bite them at a time when they are not ready for it. And the world is now facing severe financial dislocations. We need sure and certain leadership at the top, particularly here in the United States, and that while this question is out there unresolved, I don't see how Mr. Obama can possibly concentrate fully on the job in hand. So that's why it matters to us in the United Kingdom that this question should be resolved. Now, supposing you wanted to see the birth certificate of the Queen of England, or the Prime Minister, or the Leader of the Opposition, would you have to go down on bended knee to Mr. Onaka, or anyone else for that matter? No. In Britain, all certificates of birth, of marriage, and of death are matters of public record. And all you have to do is go into the Public Record Office, pay your £10 or whatever it is, and you can have the copy of the birth certificate of anybody you want, without restriction. And I must say that in the land of the free, I find it puzzling that the birth certificate of your president is a state secret. Because if I were the president, worrying about this issue, and how do I know he's worried about it? Because in 2008 he released his short form birth certificate, and in 2012 he issued, 2011 I should say, he issued his long form birth certificate, of all places, on the White House website. He is plainly worried by this issue. The Department of Health in Hawaii, which keeps the state secrets, which are the birth records of Hawaii, they are fed up with this issue because people from all over America are getting in touch and saying, we want copies of this certificate, why won't you let it be publicly available? So these two, the Department of Health and your president, have a common interest, surely, in putting this matter firmly and forever to bed. And let's pretend for a moment that the birth certificate of your president is genuine. Because it's not for me as a non-expert to tell you that it isn't. But if it is genuine, then the Department of Health in Hawaii will know that, and the president will know that, and therefore they could and should and surely would do the one thing that is entirely, totally, blindingly obvious. They would open up the original book of records to forensic inspection by experts chosen by both of your political parties. They would say, come and look. You can check whether the number of the birth certificate is in sequence. You can take a small sample from the corner of the paper to check its date. You can take a sample of the ink to check that it matches the date of the period. You can check anything you want. Come and look. But here is the deafening silence. They haven't said that. They haven't done the obvious. And the question is, why not? Is it against the law? No, it isn't. It is quite clear in the Hawaiian law that if the keeper of the records wishes to make any of the records public or put them on display or allow them to be inspected, he or she is fully entitled to do so, provided that the subject of that record consents. And clearly, if this record were genuine, or is genuine, then your president would want people to see that it was genuine, and he would be content to have this forensic examination performed, and he would therefore say to the department in Hawaii, I have no objections, please go ahead and allow forensic experts for both parties to come in and have a really good look. That, after all, is what we can do. I can go and see the original birth record for myself or anybody else in the United Kingdom. I can go there, I can put on my white gloves, I can be monitored by somebody who makes sure I don't tear the page out or write rude notes across it, and I can examine the original document. What is the problem with that? And yet one of the things that happened in one of the cases about this is that the brother of a girl who was born the same day as President Obama and died the following day, when he asked the court in Hawaii whether he could have a copy of the long-form birth certificate for his sister, to which Hawaiian law specifically entitles him, he was told no by the court, because the Deputy Attorney General for Hawaii said, we can't have people looking at the records, that might damage them. Well, hello, surely the whole purpose of looking at records, keeping records, is so that they can be looked at. And so, to me, coming from a country where we have a tradition of freedom, and where these public records are just that, public, it is remarkably puzzling how difficult it is for you to have sight of records which to us would be literally an open book. So that's the first question that niggles at my mind and worries me about this issue. But there are further questions that worry me, because I didn't think much about this issue one way or the other until I saw what Sheriff Arpaio had to say. Somebody got in touch and said, you've got to watch this YouTube clip of his press conference. And I thought I was going to see some hick redneck wanting to gain some national publicity for himself by having fun at the expense of your president. So I watched, and within about 2 minutes, I could see that that was not the case. Here was a serious, thoughtful man who had been approached by 250 Tea Party members. Give yourselves a round of applause. Tea Party members. And they had said, we don't think the document on the White House website is genuine, we are unhappy about it, and we are requesting you to investigate what we fear may prove to be a very serious criminal offence. So what happened then was the sheriff tried to tell them to go away. And they said, no, we do want this investigated, and we have brought to you credible evidence there's something wrong here, and we want you to look at it in your capacity as the sheriff. That's your job, mate. They might not have used the word mate, but we would. So he then said, oh, all right. And he said to his cold case posse, he called them in, he said, look, we've got to do this, it's very boring, we all know it's genuine, but we've got to go through the motions, so will you please have a look at what they've brought to show you, and then come to me and tell me it's all okay, and I will tell them, and then we can get on with the rest of our police work. That was his approach. He did not for a moment believe that this document was bogus, because he, like me until that time, had not looked at the question. It was not of interest to him. He had his own county to look after, and he had to make sure there were plentiful supplies of pink underwear for his business. But anyway, he sent the cold case posse away to do this. He wasn't prepared to spend any of the taxpayers' money on this. And they came back to him and they said, Joe, we're very unhappy to have to tell you that we can't give this document a clean bill of health. And he said, oh, for heaven's sake, don't be so silly. And they said, look, we're going to sit you down, we're going to run you through what we've found. And he said, look, I'm sorry, I'm not accepting this. And he made them do 6 months of further digging, just to make absolutely sure. And after 6 months, he said, all right, we'll have to have a press conference, we'll have to announce that we're not happy with this, and that further investigations will now have to be carried out. And it was that press conference on March the 1st this year which was my first introduction to this, on the face of it, very strange subject. And you may wonder why it is that that long list of news media, basically on the centre-right, that you heard from Mr. Ballantyne, have not shown more interest in this. And I think the answer is that those who have tended to take up this matter as though it was some kind of great crusade have rather tainted the issue by making themselves look as though they were some kind of lunatic pointy heads. And they have got confused between sticking very carefully to the facts of whether or not we have a genuine document there and whether or not they like the president politically. And I don't think it is responsible to do that. And I've told some of them this very clearly. I've said, if you want to be taken seriously on this issue, stop playing politics with it, confine yourself to the question, is this or is this not a genuine document, and go and get the very best forensic advice and legal advice that you can find.